Hi everyone, it's Ellie. Welcome back to my channel. Today we're going to be talking about the Essie Gel Couture line. I was able to find a starter kit here which came with a color and the top coat. So I picked this up and I've been really excited to try it. So I'm going to show you how it applies and give you my initial thoughts, and then I'll be back in 2 weeks because it claims up to 2 weeks of wear, and I'll show you how it held up. So I picked the color called Gallivanting, and it's a really pretty kind of a red wine burgundy color. So as you may have heard, these polishes have a different style of brush. So as you can see, there's kind of a swirl in the stem of the brush that's supposed to help the polish kind of drip down evenly to make a smoother application. It also has a very curved and flat paddle-like brush. And the polish bottle is actually kind of a twisted, swirling shape, and I found it pretty easy to hold on to. So there were no instructions in this kit, so I wasn't sure if I should use a base coat, but because this color is so dark and rich, I thought I probably should. So I used my Formula 1 by Nailtiques as kind of my treatment base coat. Then I followed it up with a coat of this Pro FX sticky base coat. So in addition to protecting against staining, this should help increase the longevity of this manicure. So I wanted to show you how I like to load up my brush for application. I put the tip in and then I only drag off the side of one side of the brush. So I make sure that there's polish on the other side, and that's the side I'm going to put down on the plate of my nail. So I generally consider myself having pretty wide nail beds, but as you can see, this brush is very wide, and it might be challenging for people with more narrow nails, but for me it fit really well. The curved design of the brush also allowed me to get right down into the side walls as well. And I'm doing a really slow and steady application because this color is so deep, I don't want to risk getting a lot of staining or flooding around my cuticles. And this brush is perfect for wrapping the tips. I think the paddle shape works really well for that. And wrapping the tips is always important, especially with a dark color like this, and also considering I'm planning on wearing this for 14 days, I want to really increase the wear time. So for the consistency of this polish, it is a little bit different than your regular nail polish. It's really thick. Honestly, if this was a regular polish, I would reach for my nail thinner and thin it down a little bit, but that's my personal preference. I prefer polishes a little bit on the thinner side. For me, it helps me get a nice thin coat. This consistency kind of lends itself to doing thicker coats. And although the consistency is a little bit thicker, it does dry really fast. So for some of my nails that are a little bit wider, I did need to dip in for a little bit more product on the brush to finish the nail. So when I had to do that, it would kind of drag a little bit over the area that I had already applied. So it just goes to show how quickly this dries. I think that generally speaking, the fewer strokes you can make in this product when you're applying it, the better. The first coat goes on very opaque. It is a little bit patchy in areas, but again, I try not to overwork it and focus on just getting a nice smooth base and try to clean up any areas of patchiness with my second coat. So again, the shape of this brush just really lends itself to a nice application. The curved design works really well to get a nice clean edge around the cuticle and spreads itself out really nicely when you apply a little bit more pressure to make a nice seamless transition between your strokes. And I want to mention that although this formula is on the thick side, it wasn't difficult to work with in any means. I really didn't notice much of an effect coming from the swirl on the stem of the brush. Maybe it did kind of help the product flow a little bit better onto the brush. I don't know. I did have a pretty nice application, so maybe that is part of it, but I can't pinpoint it to that being the sole reason. So you can really see here on this nail where that product starts drying so quickly and I have to dip in to really smooth it out a little bit more. So here's what I have after the first coat. You can see a couple little patchy areas, but overall this is very opaque and super shiny on its own. There were a couple little areas that I needed to clean up with acetone, and as you can see here, this polish really kind of bleeds easily with acetone. I'm not sure if it's because it's so dark or this particular formula of polish, but I really had to be careful when I was doing my cleanup, or else I would get that dark colored stain in my cuticles. So after letting the first coat dry, you can kind of see here, especially on my index finger, that it dried to kind of a bumpy look. So not completely smooth, but hopefully the top coat will smooth that out. Now I'm going in with a second coat. Again, this is a little bit tricky on my pinky, which is my smallest nail, trying to get down to the sides of the nail, but not overloading the brush and getting it on my skin was a little tricky. This might be extra difficult with those with more small nail beds. So the second coat really does deepen up that color and cover any streaky areas. So again, try to make the fewest amount of strokes as possible for a nice smooth and even application. This polish glides on really easily, and I find that the second coat goes on a lot easier than the first. So this is what I have after 2 coats and doing a really meticulous job of cleaning up around my nails. You can see on my pinky nail and my index nail, the nails that I had to do a little bit more cleanup work, there is a little bit of a red staining around my cuticles. I think that's caused by this being such a deep, rich, pigmented shade, or the formula may be bleeding a little bit easier, but generally speaking, if you use a more dry cleanup brush instead of one that's dripping wet with acetone, you might have better luck. And I did notice that this color went on maybe a shade or two darker than what's in the bottle. So here's the top coat. As you can see, this brush is standard. It doesn't have that swirl, but it does have the same brush tip with a nice curved area on the tip. My usual top coat of choice is Seche V, which is naturally a little bit of a thicker top coat. So the consistency of this is very comparable to Seche V, and I applied it in the same way that I would apply a normal top coat, which is a little bit of a thicker top coat and really trying to do as few strokes as possible to make a nice, rich, thick, juicy looking top coat. And the consistency is really nice. Even though I'm aiming to do a thick coat, it's not bleeding or running down into the sidewalls of my nails whatsoever, which is really nice. And the top coat is really smoothing out any of those small little rough areas that I noticed after the first coat dried. It makes a beautiful shiny glass-like appearance, and it looks really thick and plump, almost like it is a gel. So I get where they're coming from, where this is kind of being considered like a gel effect polish. Despite the thickness, this top coat was really fast drying. So here's the final result after the top coat, and I love how it looks. This color is so deep and dark and really vampy looking, but the consistency and the performance of the polish I'm really impressed with. So I'm going to wear this for 14 days like I mentioned, and I will take pictures kind of showing the progress, and I will be back in 2 weeks to show you how it wore. So here's a still photo of the nails, and you can really see the depth of that shine. It really does look like a gel polish. Here's another picture, and I love this color. It's like they've been just dripped in red wine. It's so beautiful. So thank you so much for watching. I hope you liked this video. Make sure to subscribe so you can see back in 2 weeks how this manicure wore on me. And follow me on social media. I'm on Instagram and Twitter at peptalkdaily, and I would love to interact with you there. Thanks for watching. Bye.